next week on another book producer. Uh, she has initiated the CCT Conversations, and CCT Conversations is basically a public platform to have conversations with various kinds of practitioners who are invited every fortnight to the institution to kind of discuss their work as well as the world that they have created for themselves. CCT Conversations is a part of CCT, which is a public platform of the School of Environment and Architecture, and is supported by the Urban Center here in Mumbai. Uh, every 6 months, there is a thematic that holds these conversations, these talks together. Uh, this particular thematic that we are working within is called the Bookmakers series, where we have invited people who've been working with books. So, people who've made books, biographers, fiction writers, non fiction writers, translators, uh, different kind of bookmakers, editors, people who think through books. And today we have a very interesting uh, presenter, uh, artist with us uh, from Delhi, Priyesh Gothwal. Uh, Priyesh is here with us. Uh, uh, we've been in one panel together in January, no? Yeah, and then another close friend told me about his work, and then I looked him up, and then came to know a lot of things about him. Basically, he roams around the world with these books and keeps on collecting and adding more to his collection. And these are handmade self books by artists, a whole lot of artists who've kind of given their books to this collection, and this collection keeps on growing. So he's a book collector, and a collector of a specific kind of book. Priyesh is an artist himself. He studied at the Shivnadar University in Delhi, outside Delhi, Noida, but in Delhi, and currently teaches at the Jindal University, OP Jindal University, again in Delhi, Sonipat. Uh, and what is interesting is something which I also got introduced to about Priyesh is is about the idea of the collective, and something which is also kind of taken form in this collection. But also, I think, for example, in this particular presentation, he's invited his four friends to participate and jointly have a conversation. And he runs he jointly runs with others a collective called the First Draft, based in Delhi, based out of Delhi. I mean, it's placeless. There is another collective, uh, studio, huh? Jangpura Studio. And it's interesting that the idea of a collective is an interesting thing, and I think it's I'll take a minute to kind of uh, explore this idea of the collective over here. And we keep on saying, to understand the contemporary, we go back to Salman Rushdie, who's kind of who keeps saying the contemporary is like, the contemporary means now, here, is like watching a film with the cheek on your with the cheek on the touching the screen. So if your cheek is touching the screen, how do you make sense of the image? You know, you can only make sense of the image by talking to others whose cheek are also touching the screen. You know, and then have a conversation. So that's the whole driving force of the collective. How do you kind of engage with the world? Because all of us are in our own kind of. If y'all remember, I think the senior students will remember COVID glossary, which also came up from a similar kind of a idea. How do you kind of think through a collective? How do you kind of put think through together? I think that's very important to understand, because things which you need not necessarily do it alone, and the collective also provides you that ecosystem to ecosystem. It's also a support system. It's also a system which holds you in the absence of other routine regular forms that society has created, the forms of institution or of family or of other things, no. So it's a collective kind of holds things together, and the basis of the collective is friendship, actually. And this is something which ties the collective together. So I think they have been experimenting with the idea of collective, and this work really comes out of that ambition, that desire to kind of have and work together with the collective. So with this very brief introduction, I'll ask Priyesh to curate the session, with everybody else. So he'll introduce the other artists also. Mohit, of course. Where is Mohit? Mohit is is a regular friend of C. Has been coming visiting C. So Mohit, uh, uh, we know he's introduced everybody else. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Prasad. This was a very, very nice introduction. Covered a lot of points. So this will be not so much of a talk or a lecture. So I will invite all of you to actually come and look at the books, because this would be more like a collective reading session. So if you can just come, we'll have a look at the books. We also have some artists with us, Ankit, Mohit, Priyank. Their books are also here. So we'll read along with them, going through some of the slides here, but mostly it would be around reading books together. Please come, join us. So on the screen, what we see is the list of artists who have contributed to the show. So the idea of the show emerged from a very personal experience. I was making some of the books, and I wanted to show them, and realized that even in a very small space, a lot of books can come together. And that became the first step towards making the show possible. You'll find a lot of books here, like some of them are photo books, comics, zines, some experimental forms, flip books. So Book Show 1 is the first edition in the series of book shows, which is a traveling exhibition of books of various kinds. And the first iteration of the show was made with around 83 books. Um, Prasad mentioned about the studio that we are part of. There are 5 of us who maintain this studio: Mohit, Priyank, Kaushal, Asma, and me. That became the ground for the first iteration to happen. Also, this is the itinerary of the books that I was maintaining throughout, which also turned into a poster, symbolically representing how the fluidity of the show itself, because the list keeps on expanding and reducing with iterations to iterations. So we also organize some reading sessions along with the show. This when the show traveled to Fika, which is an organization working with young artists and students, Foundation for Indian Contemporary Art based in New Delhi. So these are the 7 places that the show has been to so far, and we can see how the list have kept extending and reducing over the time. So there are some books that also, so the collection is open for anyone to take out the book anytime also. So if they need it for any purpose, it can be taken out. Also, a lot of the books are just drafts. So if somebody wants to rework on it and take it out, that is also possible. But this, the shortest list that we see here is because of the distance. So the show went to Melbourne, Australia. Yeah. So in Feb 2024, the first iteration was made in the shared studio space, Jangpura. What also happened quite interestingly was that a lot of books, because they are drafts, did not have artist names or even the title of the book. So that became a very interesting conversation between the readers and the artist itself, because both of them were uncertain about the book to a certain level. In March 2024, the show moved to Foundation for Indian Contemporary Art. April to Shimnara University. Uh, there's a prompt that I would like to share for the reading session today. So throughout the travel of the show, there were some questions and some inquiries that kept going on, some of which were about the conceptual or the curatorial framework of the show, as well as the formal aspect of arranging the books, making reading stations, and the stands, while some were about the experience of reading itself. A question that a friend, Surya, asked that I would like to pose as a prompt is whether, while going through the show, if we would like to read in isolation, solitary reading, or we would like to read in a collective. Something that Prasad also brought up in the introduction. So we can use this as the prompt and maybe we can dive into the reading session. The artist here with us will also join us for the reading session, but it is open for anyone to just pick up a book. And even if it's just one page that you would like to read, it would be very nice if you read with us. So there were several books that created their own space as well. Two of the examples we see here. One is of Ankit's. Um,
Okay, so here is the slide of this work you see. This is called Galicha Ladi, and when you see the book in isolation, it doesn't make sense. It looks like it's just absurd images. That book, can I? So this is the book, and I usually make sure it goes with this collage here on the table. So I had done an installation which was based on an architectural space in Gujarat. This was my ancestral home. and it was being destroyed. So what I was doing was I was collecting fragments of that space. I was trying to reconstruct the memory of that space, and I realized that. Can you go to the previous photo? You see, this is one of the family photographs I had. Like, I had several family photographs, and I realized I didn't have the picture of the tile that you see on the floor. So I looked at multiple family photographs. I started digitally cutting them out, flattening them on Photoshop, and then I collaged it into one continuous tile pattern, which you see here. So you will see different corners of the house, different daytimes, and all the small layers in Photoshop. It was around 101 layers. I started mapping them onto this tile pattern, and what you see here is all the Photoshop layers that make up the continuous collage. I was thinking of the structure of the book itself. It's an opaque book, and I was thinking of how, because of the opacity of the paper, you can't really reconstruct the pattern. So that's why I thought the book and the fragmented memory made sense. So this is Galicha Ladi, and there are two zines there which go with the same work. There's a small blue book in the center, if you see, and there is a fence, a folding fence. If someone has the folding fence, do we have it? Okay, when we find it, maybe we'll come back to it. But I had made more small books which try to capture the architecture and just the memory of the space. So this is one of the works. I have some more books here which maybe I can come back to later. Okay, yeah. This tiny book is actually referring to a prayer book that my mother used to read. And this is the image of the terrace. And I just remembered it. I didn't have a photograph again of the space. I just remembered this is how the terrace of my village looked. And it has a small story written in Gujarati and English both. You can read it. It's just about me as a child. I thought I can cause the rain if I dance on the terrace, and I danced, and the rains happened. And then I went to my mother and I told her, rains happened because of me. And she just says, "Good, you told me, but don't tell anyone else." And that's the story. And that just, I thought, connected with the space, the loss of a childhood home, all of that. So, yeah, this is that. You'll find one more portable architectural zine. Whenever you find it, I'll just tell you about it. It's just the house was believed to be a lutera's house, someone who used to loot the Zaveri bazaars of Mumbai. And then there is a lot of gold hidden here and there in the house, is what I had heard. So there are a lot of myths about the house. And the zine is just a threefold photograph of a fence. And I wanted to position the viewer, when they look at the fence, behind the fence. So when you see it, it's printed on both sides. You can't really, like when you see it, you again cannot connect the two essential parts of the architecture together because they're printed front and back. And again, it was about loss of a space and memory.
A few of the ideas behind the show were also one of which was to have books in such a way that it maintains its tactility, and to have it in the show in a way that it does not become a museumized object or object that are displayed on the walls, but it sustains its use value in a way that it functions even while it's kept on the table. So you will find a lot of such books here which uh, have that sensitivity to them. We also have Priyank's book here.
Hello. Yeah. No, no. So this is the book which came out in a form after quite a long time. I've been taking, so it's a photo book. I've been taking photographs like for 2, 3 years, and I didn't know how to see them as a project together or a work together. So, okay, so the photographs were, I was continuously moving within city, outside the city. City means Delhi. And the idea was I was just keeping, we all have panoramic camera in our phones, right? So I was just keeping it open outside from any moving vehicle. So be it the train, the auto rickshaws, the buses, metros. Yeah, so I got various different kinds of images, which, like, if I look at on in one way, also see them as pretty pictures. But at the same time, there was something unusual about them because they were also talking about the speed of the city. Like the city, when we try to see it, we just do not see a city static. We also see it moving. City also exists in motion, right? So then based on this thought, I thought to compile all the images which, like, up till this time, which were almost like 2000, 3000 images. So then I selected few images together, and yeah, so you can take a look. And then also giving the form to the book it was a process in itself. I was not sure how to give it form, but then I thought, first I was thinking to make a book which would unfold, whose pages will unfold so that the panoramic, elongated photographs can be visible. But then I thought um these kinds of elongated form in itself would be good. So I tried. This is the second iteration. The first iteration was a bit small, but then this is the second one. If anyone wants to, yeah. There's something also after compiling this thing. I was also since I was thinking about the city with its looking the city with its speed. I also tried to compare this with the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Have you guys heard of it? The uncertainty principle. Yeah, it says that you cannot measure the particle velocity and its position at the same time. So it's just I played with this idea that I caught the city in its position and in its speed at the same time. So something what I had written, I tried to write written at the end, the last page. Okay, anyone wants to read something? Any student? We have a very interesting book here, but it would require a brave student to read it because it's a book which is full of galis. Yeah, so it's a book which a friend who's part of First Draft from Delhi, she has made a book almost like a dictionary of galis. And I can recall one moment from the book shows where some other friend tried to read the entire book very loudly. Anyone to wants to read the book? Guys, you have a freedom to say as much galis as possible. Huh.
There is the book.
Where is the book? Yeah, yeah. Do you want to go ahead? I think he wants to go, guys. Clap for him. Read some of it and then pass. Read collectively. You stop it.
As many as you would like to read.
गांड मारना. Its literal meaning is चुतंड में चोदना. To fuck somebody in as perform an anal sex or sodomy. Or the popular meaning is चोदना only. Usage is साले तेरी गांड मार दूंगा.
So this is a book by Anarya. She does a lot of such projects in which she goes around, makes comic strips, and she would stick it on the walls of female toilets. So a lot of vandalism in a way, and quite also challenging the society. We would see that there are almost all of them are addressed to females. So that was one of the idea that she was playing around with. This entire project was displayed at the Students' Biennale in 2014, and this book was one of the part of it. So a lot of books here are also that a lot of people were considering as part of a larger project, but the book itself carries a lot of drafts or the making of the project. So I thought it would be nice to include all the books here. Do we have anyone else also?
Uni, literal meaning is vagina, passage leading from the opening of the vulva to the cervix of the uterus for copulation and childbirth in female mammals. Popularly used as chut, bhosada, fuddi, kusi, bur, ched.
There is another book that we can actually collectively read, which is the Book of Disappointments. Um, we can go like page to page, and you want to start?
Museums never displayed my artworks.
These clouds never make the shape I wanted to see.
Flowers have never smelled the way I smell. I always had more pencils than I needed.
I have never seen a rainbow.
The moon was never moving along with me.
My eyes blink too much. My thoughts are always regarding my problems.
My thoughts are always regarding my problems. It rains every time I don't have an umbrella.
Garbage can't walk to the dustbin itself.
Disney doesn't have a princess with my skin complexion.
52. I was never the way my mom wanted me to be.
Objects have more attachments with me.
I can advise but can't apply when it's needed.
All my ideas stays in my head because of laziness. Where is Rupali?
Gravity will never allow me to fly.
Instead of poetries, I decided to print disappointments.
My disappointments have never been considered as disappointments.
We also have Mohit with us. And Mohit's book is here, which is called Image Syndrome. From the first iteration, in the first iteration, there was a pile of these photo state drawings that were there. And these were meant to be taken off as we see them. Mohit will share more about the work.
Hi. So, I mean, these are the just drawings which I was doing throughout the year. I started with to make some sort of uh, journal. I had a little bit interest in graphic novel sort of format, but I couldn't make it somehow in that way. But simply, I was like doing a simple drawings. The images which are largely circulating on web, largely journalistic images which is coming from the war zones or riots, specifically 2019's riot in Delhi. Um, and it was a COVID time, so most of the people were in their own spaces, and the web is the thing. So seeing these images was the kind of um, everyday life kind of scrolling and going through. I simply wanted to give them some texture and volume and bring them out from the screen. During that time, I was working in the print studio. It's a local printing shop where the banners and big hoarding get printed. So I had my small table there. So I was just doing these drawings, and uh, there was a small parcha print, very simple print, and I was like sticking around that studio and passing to friends. Later on, it become the drawings were growing and things was growing. Then I simply made each drawings reproduction. So I was thinking around image, copy, copy of image. This kind of really huge discussion, which already we have in our discourse, the copy and origin. Um, and in this relation, the war imagery, which is slightly glorified, and kind of this marvel sense of imagery, this mushroom and the nuclear imagery, which is so popular. Uh, and there is some sort of sublime with this war imagery which we as a human we experience. So yeah, it's simple, that's it.
If somebody would like to read a page or something aloud with us, any of the books that you guys. So Anuj wanted to read one. Oh, you did. I also wanted to thanks Anuj and Deepthi for organizing everything and to get the show over here also. Um, yeah. The show will stay here till Monday, maybe here or shifted to the library section. So the places that I took the show to, these are the stands that I carried with me. And I realized that the stands were equally important as the books because these were the things that were making books not a museumized object but making it accessible for people to read. So I also tried making a stand at each and every place that I took the show to, or to get something from over there. In SNU, the show was part of a larger show which already had some stands that we utilized. Anuj also mentioned that there is a stand that Rupali and Prasad have made, which is there in the library. Maybe that will become a nice base to have the books and to incorporate something from here as well. Yeah.
Hello. So this is our friend Akshay Sethi. It's a very interesting book which is hung on this lathi, and which I think first open studio which we did with the book. It was a plastic one, and he forgot to take it out from the studio. It's still there in my space, in our space. So it become I grow with this work now, more than 2 years now. So this is a simple book which is kind of saying how you can make a sarangi or the basuri or the flute out of this street kind of pipe lathi. And there is an interesting two different object. Lathi has a very historical presence in subcontinent, whether is a lathi march and this kind of policing figure or the our kind of father figure. So this object and this kind of musical object, and end of the day, end of the page, you have a I think the figure here is somehow some relation with the Akshay, right? Yeah, yeah. There's a police officer which has this regular lathi which we often see with them, but it's a flute. So it's a book simply suggesting how you can make a flute out of the lathi. I like this very simple gesture hung on the wall, almost changing the idea of book and this object when it comes with it. It gives certain power to the book. I also reminding Akshay's another book which is, for example, any image if you which is slightly interested with my correlates with my idea there, the copy and how things happen after reduction of the image. Basically, he's made the one image and it's a reprint of that same image until it's kind of disappeared. It's a nice couple of papers. If you scroll them, you will see the image is vanishing slowly. So this is Akshay's work somehow.
Yeah. So this one, the context of the book was, as Mohit mentioned, this was in news that there was this one police officer who made a flute out of his lathi, that plastic pipe that we find with police officers, and he took the news and a little fictionalized it, added sketches with it, and almost an instructional piece of how to make flute out of lathi is something that he made. Another book that Mohit spoke of is it's a photo state. It's a drawing that Akshay made of his own father um, as a middle class man going to job and coming back home. And the image is then photocopied again and again. So it's a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. So much so that because of the grains, the image starts disappearing. And at the other side of the page, we see Pash's poem Sabse Khatarnak, which actually talks about this routine, which is the most dangerous and not what we imagine to be the dangerous. The book is over here if you would like to look at it.
There's something I want to share, two events from the past few iteration of this book show. Like as Priyesh just talked about the prompt, like would you like to read solitary or would you prefer to read collectively? So while in the other iterations of this book show, we also conducted some reading sessions, and two moments came out really hit me really differently when two different people read the book in a very unique manner. So there's one artist friend, Soumya Yadav, whose book is also here. He tried to read Pash and Faiz together. So he picked up two books and he read one line from Pash and other line from Faiz. Then one line from Pash and other line from, and it was somehow making sense. So two poems together. So so this can be a way to read collectively. It's like, or also to read many books together. And also this second moment, which when we were reading in Fika at Fika in Delhi, this and we tried to read performatively, and there's this one artist who read entire book word by word, not sorry letter by letter, and not the word by word, making the entire book senseless. And it was the book was something talking about the sound and the phonetics and the semiotics of the word and its meaning attached to it. So he experimented with it. So these are just some ways through which you can experiment with reading also. There is some experimentation done with books. Now there is another step which is required, which is a step of reading. So how to what level you can read and can make it much more experimental also.
I mean, I think the prompt is quite lovely. The idea of whether you would like to read solitary or collectively, but also this kind of gathering that you are setting up, right? To um, where it's not a talk, but it's almost like it's an invitation in some ways, right? An invitation to read together, to see together, an exhibition, come a talk. In some ways, coming together in an interesting way. I just want to also ask you then, like, how what is that call? How do you invite people? What is the relationships? Because these are not just books, they're also relationships, right? They're friendships, they're relationships. So I think if you can talk a little bit to what that call is, how do you set up those relationships, and how do these books grow from those forms of gathering and relationships? I think that will be nice for the students as well.
This is started with, as I mentioned, that it started with my own interest to show some of the books of my that I was making at that time. Um, and book as a format allows that a lot of books can come together and it can be like parallel worlds existing together. So with that intention, I approached few of my very close friends, and that's how the first step was, and then that's how it kept on extending. Also, I made sure that wherever the show was traveling, to have books from that location also, to establish some sort of familiarity with the city. And that's how it grew with the iteration to iteration. So it started with around 83 books to now 150, but it keeps on reducing also. Few of the encounters were that people who visited would see and say that, oh, I never thought that I could, like, I have a lot of books, but to be, I can keep this like that and people can come and read would be very nice. And that's how the contribution kept on coming and this happened. But I met a lot of new people because of the show also. So yeah, it was not just one way around that I approached friends, but I also made a lot of friends while approaching for books.
In fact, there was a comic, one of my comics called Pyrocumulus is here, and that was something which was brewing in my sketchbooks for over 3 years, and I wasn't able to really get it to form properly. But then Priyesh approached saying, hey, in a month I'm having the book show finally. He has also been thinking about it for a while. And because he was having the book show, I was like, I need to do this book now. So although the book, I'm not very happy with the print and the design, but because there was an event like a book show which a friend was doing, I also had the motivation to quickly finish. So a lot of books like that, Priyesh had warned us in advance that, hey, in some time we are going to have the show, we are going to have the show. So I think sometimes even a friend making an event happen motivates you to finish a work that you've started since a while. Just a little, yeah, fun fact here.
Yeah. Ankit and I, we were together in a workshop on bookmaking in Fika also. And when I think of it, that was where I started thinking of books. So a lot of participating artists are also from the workshops over there. So it almost became bringing everyone together from different parts and to have it as one body of work. So yeah, that was. There's one book that was added while the show was going on also. So for me, this was important to keep this window open, which also made me question my role within the show. Prasad was mentioning the role to be of a collector, or even if it is of a curator or a participating artist. I was trying to understand what the role would be. Would it be borrowing something from each and then to put it here, or was it a designated role, which I'm still quite uncertain about and still trying to work around it. The questions can be about a particular book also, about the show, about the overall attempt, or anything that you want to read with us. Any specific book that you liked. There is this one book by Johanna, which is Once Upon a Time There Was, and there will be so much more. Somebody would like to read? Would you like to read? So the form of the book is also quite interesting, but maybe she will tell us about that.
Billions of years ago, land took shape. Millions of years ago, dinosaurs lived on Earth. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, people moved from place to place. Thousands of years ago, people built some very large things. 100 years ago, a journey took a long time. 10 years ago, the landscape looked different. A year ago, the birds flew south. A month ago, it was still autumn. A week ago, there was a lot going on in the city. Yesterday, the weather was stormy. An hour ago, the sun set. A minute ago, the light was turned off. Now, make a wish. What time will you get up in the morning? Where will you be in the afternoon? What will you do tomorrow evening? What will the weekend bring? Who will you meet next month? How will you celebrate your birthday next year? Where will you live in 10 years' time? What will you discover when you are grown up? What sights will stay with you always? Will you have children one day? What will you look back on when you are old? What do you wish for the future? I mean, the book kind of looks like a reflection of how big the universe is and how long it has been going on and how we are a part of it. And then it, it kind of takes you back and like zooms out and then again zooms in on, okay, what is going on? What will happen tomorrow? And again goes into those nuances. So when they kind of expanding visually, she has these photos that tell you about the talk about, you know, what is happening before. And with each, I mean, how she goes from billions to millions in hundreds of years, and then the size of the page also kind of decreases with it. So the moment when we are, see, yeah, 100 years ago, it goes like this, and then she takes us to the moment, and then it's like here, which ends on now make a wish, and then it again goes like, okay, what time will you get up in the morning, and then the page size starts to increase.
So I also really like this book because of the form also. The form somewhere adds to the content also. She faced a lot of issue in the production because the page size kept reducing. So that would mean that there would be a lot of waste of pages if she prints it in large scale. But then there was a publisher that she found, and she was able to work around with it, that she was able to manage within the pages itself and not to waste a lot. But yeah.
I understand the idea of the collective and the book show, but I'm more interested in why did you choose it as a traveling book show, and how does that add to, you know, the whole sort of collection and the collective itself?
The books, I think the books are the only format that can be very easily taken with you. So where I thought that one idea was to keep on adding more and more books with the travel, and also that it can be packed very compactly and can go to a lot of places, because in a way these books are about a lot of places where the artist either belongs to or spoke about it. So to take them to different spaces and to, that was the right thing that I thought would be. Also the format allowed that to be carried. There are some books that plays with the form quite well. This is by Sarsija Subramanian. She's Bangalore-based artist and editor working with Reliable Copy, which is a publishing house. Um, the title of the book is The Lotus Eaters, and it opens in a lotus fold. Okay, somebody folded it in a different way. Can you get one? So she took an excerpt from when Odysseus is traveling back after the war, and he meets a community that sustains solely on lotus. And that lotus is almost like a drug to them and also something that nourishes them. And what Sarcisa did was tried finding if that lotus actually exists. So she looked at the geographical location, the kind of fruits that are there, or the flowers that are there, and it is all the analysis of all of those flowers. Do you guys make books? You guys make books?
So, I mean, I raised my hand because you asked that question, mainly because but generally the first picture when someone says book, I mean, the first picture when what pops up to their mind is something um, extremely, like, to some degree rigid. I don't think many people would consider these books. I mean, I mean, there was a book which just contained just artwork. So for most people, I mean, so what do you define as a book? Because it can be something so personal as well. But the general idea of a book is, oh, it has to be in a certain format, a certain story. It should have some degree of linearity. And generally, when you read a book, you should take something out of it, something useful. So, I mean, so that the general question, like, what is a book?
Thank you so much. This is the part that I also skipped. Thank you for bringing this up. I I I took this word book as a very
Collection where friends are building. Uh, so I think it's also new encounter to see new people between us, at least. When Priyesh has started, and we are also kind of with him. So it brings new encounter for us, at least, and we hope that maybe some with this encounter we kind of Priyesh kind of involve more books into it and have this kind of confused space of what book can be. I think. Yeah.
Also, it's an interesting question because we can also see the bag in which Priyesh carries books as a book, and the books becomes pages. We can see the table, this adjustment, and call that as a book, and the books as the pages. So it's a very expansive uh, term, something which can accumulate things within it and become portable. uh, can be here. I'm not changing the general definition of book, but here you can see and read and define books in various different manners. It we like, for example, the artists who all are part of it all together can also become a book, and their works are the pages. the show is the book and the artists are the pages. So then it becomes very experimental in this. So yeah, so I think we are trying to think it in that way also.
So there are a lot of catalogs here also, and this particular one, it's a dissertation by an artist and a thinker, Vijay, and his dissertation was on art employment, which is quite interesting. The title is "The Artist Job Description for the Employment of the Artist as an Artist Inside the Art Institute." And even in this very linear dissertation format, something that he has introduced is this another book which is there, which can fit in the spine and can also be taken out and can be a different book altogether. Any questions from this side?
I don't know if this is silly, but even I like writing, and I was going through this book which was made up of Russian craft tied together, and lot of origamis there. So, how do you get? How do you know what the form of the book will be, and what triggers you to write about something? For example, yesterday, for many months, I go through bus, and there is this I don't know what to call it. It's a shelter where people live, and it is very temporary on footpath. I was thinking of writing about this, ki what is home, and I didn't know in what form that writing should be. So how do you decide that? What triggers you to write that, and how the form of the book gets formed?
Thank you so much. That's a very interesting question. I think we can all speak um, on behalf of all of us in a way. But that particular book that you're talking about is by Manika, and she's over there speaking about her childhood experiences. And I found it very interesting that the book itself opens as a house, almost as if we are opening drawers, and there are memories of certain age that are kept in the drawers that opens up with that. So I think the content and the form goes together. So the writing and the form of the books, for me at least, goes together. That if for this case, if it's about home, then there is that sort of homeliness to the book also, and the way it opens, like rooms and drawers and cupboards. There is a book by Swati which is about traveling in bus, and it opens as a accordion where she is just documenting this window which is above in the bus, and that is like each and every day when she's traveling, she's documenting that particular one, and we see that as the entire row of these windows of different days. Yeah, I don't know if I was able to answer or not, but maybe they will add more.
Um, Actually, your question is very much of a creator's question. Like, I want to make something. And when we were also in the workshop, we looked at a lot of books. And one exciting thing that happened is, again, it's relating with his question about what is a book. Um, Now, here, as he said, homeliness is something maybe you associate with it. But I had a couple of examples when you asked that question. There is this book by Samir Kolavur. It's the Tarpaulin book. It's where he looks at the blue tarpaulin across Mumbai. And the book cover itself is, I think, made of tarpaulin, or there is a swatch of tarpaulin. And it just screen printed blue swatches. Now, this was again about temporary homes there. But coming Now here he was connecting the material, the flat blue patches of the visual with these pop-up houses. But he goes for a very traditional book format. Whereas something like Swati's book, a lot of books are very handmade. Now these are when
photographs or a series of photographs on wall, books allows you to also take it in your bed and read. So there is some form of proximity you bring uh, with that particular medium. So yeah, every medium has its own some unique characteristics. So I think for me, books, if you want to bring in this form of a haptic for you.
Also, I think it should also be a very fun experience of making book. I can think of few examples when Ankit was mentioning. One is that there was a student who was working with the idea of these spaces that you are also talking about, which is that pops up during the day and goes back during the night. And she made a pop-up book out of it. So when we open the book, the space pops up. When we close it, it goes down. So very simple gestures, very fun craft. Everything can come together.
So again, silly question, but when do you know a work is complete? Because this collection puts out. Hello. Huh? So this collection puts together all these complete, incomplete, experimental, and all sorts of different books you get to see. So when do you know that you complete a book, or you want to put it out, or you want to put out some work? And my second question was, I mean, what do you see the book as a medium to do? Like we had a photo book collective in college. I'm a photographer. I make images. My book was about my mind block of what do I do with this book. Like I had to make the photo book. I had my images, but the whole book was me asking questions to the book कि मैं क्या करूँ अभी, क्या दिखाऊँ, क्या करूँ इसके साथ, etc. So what is the intent that you have while making a book, or what do you do with it? So yeah.
So, the one of the book which is not here, but I think I started. I mean, everyone have their sketchbooks somewhere. We are in art thing, and I was like doing this lot of to-do list and notes and all. So after COVID, I started. So these notes are there and started simply drawing on it. I didn't know what will happen. So a lot of sketches is coming, and you can also see to-do list. Tomorrow I have to send something kind of thing. So I didn't know, it was just taking it. It's also the not thinking about the format also. Sometimes it's like something which is very quick in a way for oneself, and for me at least. So then 6 months you realize, oh, your personal notes are overlapped by this imagery which everyone is seeing, and I don't know, it's doing something or not. Sometimes you just go through it. So that was the kind of space was coming into the that book. Later on, some I made a video out of it, but you know it didn't come as a book, as a work, final bracket of the work. It come as a video work. So I hold the book in the different spaces of my hometown, and I asked some of my friend to hold it, and sometimes I was shooting it. So it became a 5-minute video, where the book, not a personal space but a public opening, almost a reading, showing to the public. And I also was interested with this gesture of holding some sort of, so it leads into one to another. And that's the, I think, at least as an artist, for me, the things as growing. Still this book is very confused, yet confused for me. I have a show going on, and I didn't put that book, I was thinking, but I put some drawings of these books. So, and it's fine. I think sometimes it's not resolved. One can also talk about that. And slowly I think, some sketches leading to the book leading to the video. I like that kind of opening. Yeah.
Um, I think, like for example, for Mohit, that sketchbook, when someone held it and the video form probably became more convincing for him. But this unresolvedness is constantly there. So I don't think, like I have these 4 5 books in the show and they've been there for years, but I still feel like, no, they're like, I want to do this, I do this. So, you get ideas. It's just about, do you make a new one or do you go back and edit the old one? So it's really never complete, probably. And I think it's okay. It's like temporary abandoned projects. And then you get back to them someday. So that's probably one way to look at it, at least for me.
It can stay at that stage of being a draft. Means you can always go back, revisit, and add something, remove something from there. Yeah. That's always the possibility. With the books here, that I think there's only one book that is published. Others, all the books are just either unique pieces, self-published, or still in the process of making. There was one more question. But come here.
No, I mean, this exhibition is sort of very, very interesting with all of the books being very unique. So I just wanted to ask you, what has been the process of curating this entire exhibition, as to what kind of books get to be a part of this and travel around, and then what does not make it or something like that? Like, what has been the process of curating this entire show?
Um, so I think as such, there is, in a way, not a very strong curatorial approach to the show. Because in the initial stage, I was thinking of a curatorial framework to have the show, to pull it up all together. But from my own experience, I found it a little restrictive in a way. And then I shifted and took a position of not as a curator, but more of a organizing something together. And then it opened up for a lot of people then to give in books or to have it as part of it. Um, yeah, so curatorially, I think it's not a very strongly curatorial approach towards it. But I still think about this in a way that so far this hasn't happened, but what if I have to say no to a certain book, which hasn't happened so far, because that will define what the show is, not just what it includes, but also what it secludes, it puts away. That hasn't happened so far. I don't know what will happen when this comes up, but yeah, that's because I also don't want it to be a show that is inclusive of all, as in, otherwise then there is no definition to it, right? It can just pull up everything that is around, but I don't know, I'm still thinking around it. So you will see this shift in a lot of book list, because in the beginning it said book show curated by, then it said organized by, and now it's just by, and that's it. So I don't know what role to actually keep, but I do want a certain kind of claim to the show, because that's where care is also, that's where it happens. If there's no claim, then there won't be anyone to care about it or need to care. But thank you for the question. I think a lot of people are sleepy now. they had class. Possible, we would also like to see the books that you guys are making. So if you are around tomorrow, some of us will be here and it would be lovely to look at your books. Oh, downstairs exhibition, I saw a little from like a very quickly, but yes. There were also a bunch of students who helped in setting up the show. Uh, a huge thanks to them also. I hope it wasn't much of a. Some people hurt themselves a little while shifting and everything, but it was quite a huge help to put up the show. Thank you.
I think also seeing a interesting shift going on now with like a lot of younger artists who are, in some ways moving from the idea of the singular figure of the artist to start working with this idea of collectives and gatherings and so I think, I mean, that'll be nice to talk to the students a little bit about like what does it mean to think together, think collectively. How does this, because this is also an art form, right? It's not just a book, but a form of art itself, but completely sort of working with the idea of not ending something. I think that question of where do you end, in some ways you have answered it in many ways, that drafts are perhaps more important than where you land up, because then it's not, there's no foreclosure, right? There's a continuous conversation that happens. So I think if you can speak a little bit about this, and it's I mean, of course there are the older forms, old artist collectives, but there's something else in this new energy, I think. So I think if you can talk a little bit about this form of working that many of you are engaged in, that'll be nice.
So I'm also not sure how to completely articulate it all together, but there is a certain sense of sharing that comes with all of these, um, which uh, which exists when even when we were studying or when we graduated out of the college. Um, whether we are sharing the studio together, there is a certain kind of sharing that is going on over there. Just to bring it to the forefront is the attempt that is going on, I think. Also, there are certain things that, because of having an individual practice, there are certain areas that then cannot be touched upon, whether it is about the scale or it is about dispersing into a space. That is also something that comes with this idea of working together. Yeah, that is one aspect of it.
Means it's like uh, when we were studying together, we knew that we were together. It's like we even during our classes we used to read together. Like if some assignments was given to us, we used to sit in our hostels together and all. But then while coming out of the college or the institution, you suddenly feel this kind of hit that all the conditions which were in which you were working in under someone's expectation, under someone's final show, final assignment submissions and all those, they all goes away. And even as an artist, if you practice, you make few things, you think that I'm not sure for whom and where will it go. So it is during that time that the void suddenly hits you when you just come out of the college and in the world. We sort of saw each other in the similar kind of situation. And then I think it automatically came up that we started somehow doing works together in order to show each other or to show together to others in that sense. And even we don't know how it's very little by little started growing. And also it's a very uh, uh, means it also depended on the city we were working or we are still working in, which is Delhi. It's a very quite happening culture of like art culture the city has. And yeah, you guys can also do a show here, like maybe after this. If I'm sure you all must be making books or keeping diaries or keeping sketchbooks. Maybe you guys can come together, put some tables and do a show here. So it's just this. That's all I can think right now. It's just through these kinds of impulses, uh, things happens. And also, this is there what you're saying, the shift in the vision of not just seeing ourselves individually, but also not fully abandoning us as an individual artist, because the practice is still going on. But then even seeing yourself through other is not away from it, not apart from it. Yeah.
Um, like when I came out of college and I was constantly feeling this that the artist figure is very isolated and there is always this demand of the heroic presence and it's yeah this sad brooding very intellectual figure and that became too much. So in fact, what I did is I switched. I thought let me just get out of art and I became a puppeteer. I do puppetry now, and there the I was thinking why did I do this, and the reason was because one I couldn't really think of these formats very instantly right after college and all of that. But what I realized is theater spaces are spaces which um, the work itself is dependent on a community coming together. Uh, you do need the light person, you do need the stage designer, you do need the musician, you do need, um, like, it's codependent. So sometimes it's also to recognize that my work is, and then I realized, wait, even my artwork was never individual. I always needed the framer, my friends to discuss with, my professors, or the shop guy. So it's also a little shift in perspective that you're never isolated and your work cannot just happen like that. You do need people, and it's just about that acknowledgement and sometimes also realizing that creativity is not coming from some belly button on me. It's also like a bounce back. It is like it is we are in a large echo chamber technically and it's larger than we think. So that's something once we get out we realize more and more. And I think the draft, earlier I was always thinking it's an escapist term, and I still sometimes do, because I'm like, wait, this is just you not taking a call. But sometimes it's also nice to not fully take that burden of a call. So the draft just helps you take that step into the unknown, and then maybe you start to know it a little more. So that's something like it's a negotiation is what I'm figuring in this process.
I mean, after college, if you can manage things by yourself, then it's good. If you're not able to manage, then things like this will come up. Simple like that. If you have to find a house and you have to share, and that kind of life brings some different kind of, you know, form, structure, thinking, and through that, some sort of maybe the book show is coming out. and it's expanding, and hopefully you guys add your books into it in future. So that's the kind of simple way to look at it, I think. Yeah, I see in that way. It's like suddenly one WhatsApp group someone has made and people are adding into it and something is coming up. So that kind of happening in a way.
Yeah, it's always a negotiation between this individual figure and this figure of collective. And the exchange of information between these, and to be able to understand one's own limit, and then the limit of the collective, then the limit of the society or the city that we are part of. But yeah, I think as Priyank mentioned, the city played a very important role. Um, Whenever we would call people for open studios in this studio, people would show up. They would discuss with us, and that's how it started taking form. So it's larger than, as Ankit also mentioned, it's larger than the self. I wanted to know about this entire series of bookmakers, and because Shweta came before, the talk was online. She also has one of the books here, and the prompt that I posed here was something that I asked Shweta also, and she brought this up that there are certain books that I would like to read only by me, and then there are certain books like of Akshay that I would like to read in the gathering. But I wanted to know more about the entire series, and it's quite interesting to think of book and in its spatial terms or in the terms of architecture. But I wanted to know more what the impulse was.
So I mean, this I keep on explaining again. The even in conversation with Shweta, this came up. This whole idea of what does it mean to think of space through a space of the book, you know? And one of the challenges uh, that that we face in architectural education is there is a requirement by the university to kind of produce a thesis. Now, the thesis on space, how does the thesis of space happen in the form of a book? Now, this is something which has been a consistent question, and I mean, many of us sitting over here have kind of tried, explored, experimented, and worked on it. I mean, particularly the fifth years. So that is something that is our interest in the idea of book. And also the problem is that what has happened recently is not recently, I mean last so many years, that one is a social science writing which uses a techno legal language that has hijacked the idea of research. And secondly, uh, there's a mere difficulty of writing space, no? That's the so uh, and thirdly, the publishing house requirement of a particular way of writing journals, writing not magazines, journals, particularly writing a book. The publishing house, hegemony, one could say. So there is that problem of how the book has to come. There are defined frames and stuff like that. So, and we've been kind of saying that it is impossible to talk of space in those terms only, and there are multiple ways of talking of space and multiple ways of producing a book on space. And what are those multiple ways of producing? So that is one axis from where the series kind of was thought of. The other thing was, when we were thinking of the series, that during that time a number of books you know came out. One biography on Charles Fourier came out, one book on gendered space came out, one something happened. So we thought that it'll be nice to kind of think of the uh, series, and also Shweta's own practice, which is basically a practice of making book and thinking of the world through the making of books. So I think that was also playing out in our mind, in my mind particularly. So it's kind of so so that's why the Bookmaker series, and kind of thinking about thinking about the space of books. Uh, mainstream conventional books to different forms of books and different forms of writing and variety of things. So people I think just before Shweta, an activist kind of produced a biography of a movement. It was so personal and so hard, the book. It kind of it's a very difficult book in that sense to kind of get a grasp of what this, and also see the activist. You see the activist in high tension in the book. There are variety of experiments that are being made. So that's the reason why the Bookmaker series, and this whole 7 or 8 people have come together. And also we want to kind of shift the conventional talk, which is usually the kind of a thing that takes place, a conventional talk which happens as a lecture series, in the name of the lecture series, to a slightly more engaged, to a conversation form, in your case very explicitly an exhibition to anchor the discussion, or a discussion form, or a multiple series, or working on a biography of one person or one movement or one story or one kind of author. So experimenting a little bit beyond the whole idea of somebody giving a lecture. So that was a uh, so these are basically exploratory things. But I'm kind of thinking, why are people asking about boundaries and definitions and ending and not ending and these kind of questions? Like, why do you need to define the idea of the book? Or why do you need a completion in the project? Or why call it curation or whatever, collection? It's like, I mean, we use it as shorthand, but it's kind of exceeds so many of those things, and kind of pushes us to think so much more about the possibilities, because these questions, they become anchors otherwise. Like, so there are so much an exploratory dimension, and open to the open-endedness. It doesn't close, no. It's kind of it opens. So I was thinking that it's possible to think like this, no, kind of, in a open manner, and leave it open. I mean, a, a if he gets 50 more when he becomes famous, and then there are all kinds of artists will come and give his book, and that time the test starts. What does he exclude? What does, or carry with him, or whatever? It's a and so many things. People have been carrying artworks. People have been carrying, you know we were in China, artists carrying each other's works, of course, in discs. And it and the what he spoke of care at one moment, the care and love and friendship and affection that one mobilizes to talk of somebody else's work, you know, it tells so, it has so much, I mean, your work is preserved in somewhere else's hand. It's there, it has an assurance and an insurance, you know, it's like it's that. So that, and then there were people who, I mean, there were modernists who used to carry boxes around and uh, you know, uh, uh, suitcases around and open up, you know, there's so many people. uh, so it's kind of, you know, it follows those lines, those trips of people. So yeah, so you want, huh? So should we stop, or anybody wants to kind of add more things to this? Next week is another one, but I think Anuj is going to moderate that one. I'm not there. That's why. So uh, that's again one mad carpenter making a book on play, on toys and plays. You know, so it's kind of a, she's a carpenter, German carpenter. So it's kind of, it's quite something. That woman's energy is something actually. So she's coming next week. It's 8 o'clock, and I think we should stop. But the exhibition will be here. I think we'll figure out a way to keep the book safe. Everybody who has the books, please return it. So, uh, but it is there over here for you to see. We'll keep it till Monday. Monday, Tuesday, let's see. We'll set up one table in the library. We'll set up one table in the library. We'll give one table in the library. Joel will take care of it. So we'll set up one table in the library. And tomorrow, for tomorrow, it can be here. For tomorrow, it can be here. For Monday, we'll set up one table in the library. It can be there for Monday, Tuesday also, and then we'll send it to him. So they're fascinating things, and you know, every time I see a book which is handwritten and which has ink in it, then you get goosebumps. You know, like because it's there. No, somebody's written it, so it's kind of, so that there is that viscerality to this collection. No, it's not a indifferent penguin publication. There is a, because it's handmade, somebody's tied it, somebody's pasted it, touched it, and kind of made it really crafted. So there is that viscerality to it. So it's so you get some goosebumps. Anyway, thanks Priyesh, and thanks everybody. Please keep coming. She is always open. You can, and yeah, thanks everyone. See you again next week on Friday, which is the last of the Bookmaker series. Thanks Priyesh.